Spring salmon fishing generally conjures up images of large, bland rivers, grey cold days and endless, sometimes fruitless casting. The Delphi system breaks that mould, with two contrasting glacial lakes and the Madura River, whose gin-clear waters cascade down to Killary Fjord, punctuated by pools and runs that are made for the fly fishermen. It seemed my first salmon fishing trip of the season was also going to break that mould. As I arrived at Delphi, there was barely a cloud in the sky and the sun was melting the icy bite from the air. I'm lucky enough that I have nearly the whole system to myself, so I've decided to start here on the river.
This is the rock pool. There was a good bit of rain last week, so there's a nice bit of water in the system. It's run down to a really nice fishable level. Unfortunately, it's gin clear and the sun is cracking the water at the moment, so any fish that are there are going to be really spooky. But the temperatures are good and these fish are fresh, so they should be reasonably active. I'm trying to get my fly in the water and see what happens. I've got a Cascade in a 1/2-inch copper tube, 7 weight floating line, and I should have 12-pound leader, but I've gone up to 15 because I can't find my 12 pounds, so hopefully it's not going to be too visible for them. So let's get the fly in the water and see if we can meet a fish.
The Bundora River is relatively short and spring salmon don't usually linger too long, often choosing to make their way up to Finlock sooner rather than later. Because of this, it's a good idea to try and keep moving in the hope of intercepting a resting fish.
When I was walking in, I saw a couple of really fresh looking fish move in the tail of the pool here, so I've kind of moved quickly down and concentrating down there. The fly I'm fishing is predominantly black, this Cascade, and a little bit of orange in the wing, but what it has that I really like is it has a little touch of crystal hair in the wing, which is really going to glisten in that light as the fly swings round. And I found that darker flies on really bright days obviously are a little bit better, and that little bit of crystal hair in the wing just gives it that little sparkle that might be the difference between that fish turning away and grabbing the fly. Just giving the line a little upstream bend now and again just to get the fly to slow down and fish evenly across where I think those fish are lying. Oh, fish on! Just fishing the tail of that pool there and saw a little silver flash coming over the falls, and reckon there might be one sitting there, and oh, this fish is not happy. Oh! Really fresh, powerful fish. And I've no landing net, which is really fantastic. Looks like a wild fish as well. I'm going to have to get in here and try and get hold of this fish. Oh, he's not finished yet. Now I'm in trouble, big time. I need to get the line the other side of that rock so I can Fuck, this is some seriously strong flow here. Trying to keep a bit of pressure on this fish. I don't know how this fish is still on, but it is. I might just get a spot here where I can tail them out. Fish is still full of energy. Should teach me to bring my landing net with me. Oh, that's not a beautiful fish. I don't know what is. Beautiful wild fish covered in sea lice, fresh off the tide. And she's gonna go back. Wow. What an amazing fish. Covered in sea lice. Fresh off the tide. Stunning fish. There's an adipose fin on her, so it's wild, which means it's going to go back in the river. All wild fish in the system here go back in the river. And you can tell the stocked fish because their adipose fin has been clipped when they're smoked. So I'm going to get her back because she's fought hard. Didn't really deserve this fish. No landing net, caught in a bush. Beautiful. Gonna make sure she's well recovered before I let it back. A really precious wild hen fish, and hopefully she's gonna go and spawn in the autumn. That's got my heart racing anyway. Fresh off the tide. Say 6-7 pounds of 100% wild Atlantic salmon. Doesn't get more perfect than that.
Full of enthusiasm, I covered every inch of the river without even seeing another fish. The beauty of Delphi is I have the afternoon on the lakes to look forward to.
Here at Delphi, they rotate the rods between the Bundura River and Finlock, and later in the season Duloch further up the system. We're going to spend the afternoon here on Finlock, which is teeming with fresh fish. I've seen lots of them jumping all around here, and fish have been running here for 8 to 10 weeks and building up in this lake, and the salmon that run this system will spend most of the summer hanging out in Finlock here before they run up the upper system in the autumn towards the reds and the spawning streams. So the fish I met this morning took a cascade on a 1/2 inch tube with a bit of crystal hair in the wing, so I've decided to keep that on the point. I've put a silver stoat with crystal hair in the wing on the dropper, and I've got a sinking line because the sunlight that's intermittently here on the water is going to keep the fish a little bit deeper than normal, I'd say, and also the water hasn't completely warmed up yet. We're still kind of in between winter and summer temperatures, so the sinking line will just get those flies a little bit deeper and hopefully cover the fish where they're lying.
Delphi Lodge was once the sole preserve of the Marcus of Sligo and was a world-renowned and prolific sea trout fishery. Following the advent of intensive salmon farming in the latter part of the 20th century, sea trout stocks along Ireland's west coast experienced a catastrophic collapse, and by the 1980s Delphi was a shadow of its former glory. The then owner, Peter Mansell, decided to begin ranching fish in an effort to rejuvenate the fishery. 2.5 decades later, as the debate continues between fishermen and fisheries biologists as to whether ranching and stocking have a role to play in the future survival of Atlantic salmon, Delphi's success surely provides evidence that they do. So as the sun got higher in the sky and my chances of another salmon evaporated, I decided to catch up with Dave McAvoy to get a look inside the hatchery.
It basically started in 1991 to boost the fish stocks in the system, primarily due to a collapse in the sea trout that had happened over the previous 5 or 6 years. And the idea was to keep the fishery viable commercially, bring plenty of visitors to the area. And basically what happens is we would catch what we call broodstock in October, November, December. You strip the hens, milk the males, fertilise the eggs, and you basically rear them then from that stage to what we call the small stage, which is basically when they're ready to go to sea. And that will be, that's generally anywhere from mid-April to first few days in May. At that stage we let them go in the lake and they would migrate to see. Some of them go to the west coast of Greenland, some go to the Faroes, Norwegian Sea, and hopefully in a year or 2 years they come back and are caught by some lucky anglers like Luke there. And it has been successful. I mean, it makes a huge difference to our catches. Probably 75% of what we catch would be ranched. So from that point of view, it is successful, and our catches would be a lot less without it.
With the sun putting an end to our salmon fishing, I had in mind to go exploring in search of a little lake I've often heard of but never seen. Actually finding it might be another thing.
My map is telling me that the lake is this way, but it looks like this is about as far as we're going to get by car, so we're going to have to go hiking. Now the GPS says 20 minutes walk from here to the lake, but I don't think it's taken into account the elevations, so only one way to find out. So the good news is this little lake is teeming with trout. You can see fish feeding all over the place. I've seen small midge and small olives coming off the water. Unfortunately, the lake is really calm here. There's no ripple or wave at all, which is going to make the fish really spooky. Over on the far side of the lake, whatever way the wind is going, I can see a small wave, a bit of a ripple. So I'm going to start here, have a little cast and work my way around to the far side. There seems to be plenty of fly life on the surface of the lake here. Plenty of flies coming off the water. What I've seen are a mixture of dark olives, I reckon they're large dark olives, and midges, or small buzzers. There's lots of buzzer pupa on the surface film here, so there's obviously lots of small buzzers hatching, and definitely some large dark olives. So what I've decided to put up on my cast is on the top, I've got a very, very tiny jungle bunny, like a very small bibio with a jungle cock. On the middle dropper I have a small black spider with a silver body, and the point I have a sooty olive. So that should cover what's happening here. A bit of variety, and hopefully tempt one of these little fellas to have a look-see. Fish on. Beautiful wild brownie. He's taken a little sooty olive on the point fly. Seen a few olives coming off the water, and it's obviously what they're feeding on. Well, these fish are not huge, but I'm pretty sure, judging by the abundance of them, that there has to be a few bigger ones in here somewhere. The first couple of fish I'd caught were all taken on a sooty olive, so I decided to change my tactics. I took off the jungle bunny and the black spider, and I put a small olive bumble on a dropper, and I'm only fishing 2 flies, and that last fish took the olive bumble. So there's definitely some large dark olives coming off the water. That's what those fish are interested in most. Every now and again there's a little ripple picking up here, which would be really great. If we got a small wave, I could really see some of those bigger fish coming up to the surface. At the moment I'm fishing a medium sinking line because the glare on the water and the lack of ripple, I think any disturbance on the surface is going to spook those fish. But I did bring a floating line, and if we got a wave I'd say I could take something on the surface film and a little bumble. I've never fished this lake before, as I said, and generally the size of the fish in these lakes is pretty small, around half a pound at most. But they all hold a few fish up to a pound or 2 pounds, and I reckon this lake, judging by the amount of fly life and the abundance of fish, has to have fish well in excess of a pound. It's just a matter of finding them. Beautifully marked wild fish, about 5 or 6 ounces. Thankfully a little bit of wind has appeared and put a nice little wave on the lake, and if it sticks around I'm going to switch to a floating line and put a little bumble on my top dropper, and I think I might take some of those fish on the surface as the sun gets a bit lower in the sky.
Even with the wind improving, I didn't manage to tempt any bigger fish to the surface, but I can honestly say in a location like this, size hardly matters. About 100 kilometres north along Ireland's west coast is a very different salmon fishery. Ballastadair has one of Ireland's most prolific runs of salmon, and some very interesting history, including a 100-year-old fish pass and German salmon. We were lucky enough to spend a day there, and this time thankfully I remembered my net.